to mention is that we have a part of the team here, and it's a very good mix. We have people from the content team, the technology team, the design team, the graphics, the editing. The whole team is here, including the support services, your buddies, the TAs, all of them are here. So please feel free to catch hold of any of them. Give them a pat on their back if they've done a great job, or please feel free to let them know that they're not doing a good job if you have any feedback. So all of them are here, so please feel free to interact with our team members.
I think one of the critical things of this entire program is the peer-to-peer interaction. Someone asked me earlier, why are we doing this upgrade thing? And I said, look, we are doing this to sort of take quality education at scale. Then people ask me again that, look, how are you different from all the other existing programs? And I always keep on giving it one same sort of analogy that a good content in a great technology platform is a glorified of a library. And we don't want to be a library, we want to be a community of people who are there together. Because even in a library, not everyone comes and every college had a great library, but you did not go to the library to study, you went to the university to study. So this is an entire sort of peer network that we have sort of created here. Our suggestion would be sort of keep on interacting with each other. But before I get on to those 4 sort of starting points that I had noted down, just a quick sort of show of hands. How many of you are actually logged on to the instructor platform? So pretty much one, except for one. So yeah, that's we'll talk to you after this.
Go to the professor.
Yeah. There are 6 videos, and there are 6 entrepreneur videos and 6 videos there. How many of you have gone through all the videos? Okay. I know that some of you have, because we have the data for that. Even if you don't raise the hand, you know what it is. But yeah, suggestion would be just go through all these videos once. I think the first week we did not release any academic related content with the sole purpose that you get used to the platform. It's a new platform. Studying in an online environment is slightly different. We wanted to make sure that each one of you are getting used to the platform and getting a hang of the platform. In the platform, there's also a discussion forum. So the next question is, how many of you have posted something on the discussion forum? Perfect. I think the discussion forum objective was this AMA, which questions coming up. Immediately we got a sense that people who got upvoted will be always on top. The first thing in this entire sort of journey is one of the learning that at least I got is hiding your idea is not the most ideal thing to do. And it is a question on that in discussion forum. And I want to touch upon that because it's very, very important in this peer group to share your ideas, to share your concerns, and to share your thoughts. Because the answer that we will get in that peer group is going to be always useful. A learning that someone told me who invests in Silicon Valley is stealth is stupid. You cannot be in stealth mode forever. Share those ideas. 2 objectives that you know, you get answers to your own questions, and 2, the more you share with each other, you get the clarity of communicating your idea to someone else. And I think in this day and age where you may end up getting 30 seconds to investor, that 30 seconds is important for you to have the very crisp communication or your co-founder or your team members. In that 30 seconds, you have to communicate what your vision is and how you want to achieve those. Talking to your fellow students on the discussion forum, on sort of when you meet up offline, is important for you to sort of form that clarity. And I think in the entire program, and also the group activity today, we are encouraging you to share those ideas with you. Because every time that you think you have a unique idea, remember 9,900 other people also have a unique idea at that point in time. Share those ideas, it all comes out of execution, and sort of our entire philosophy is when you are learning something, we bring to the second point, don't just go to the lectures and stop there. Try to apply the same learning to your own venture idea. We are not, one advantage that we have as Upgrad is we are catering a larger portion of working professionals. We don't need to spoon feed them with homeworks, assignments, questions, etc. It's up to you to sort of take those learnings and apply to your own venture idea. So the second important feedback from our side would be whenever you finish a module or a session, which is how we have divided the entire program, take the same thing and apply to your own venture idea, because without that, there is no point of doing this thing. It's again a glorified from a library, which again we don't want it to be. And I think with that, if there is any time you come up with any concerns that I don't want to share my idea, I don't want to have this, remember all these ideas are being reviewed by internal team at Upgrad, and we will keep on giving you feedback as and when it sort of comes along. So that's on the platform learning. I think there's two other learnings that I would love to sort of share with you guys, and something that at least I'm seeing on the discussion forum, plus what I saw from meeting a lot of founders and entrepreneurs earlier, is that let's not run after funding when we start up. I think that's one of the most important question that we get up there, that look, if I do this program, will I get connected to investors, or will I be able to pitch my idea to some investors at the end of the day? I was talking to someone and he said this very interesting thing, that it's like you are congratulating there's a lot of praise about getting funded. It's important to have the passion about the pain point that you're solving for and keep on working towards that. I think funding will come at the right time when you have the entire clarity. And the second very important thing, which I think it's what I was talking to Amit earlier, one of our fellow students, was having focus in initial days is very important. I think it comes very naturally to us that look, I'm focusing on a K through 12 students, but I can actually go to higher education students also. But ultimately, it all comes down to focus. Remember, Facebook started just focusing on our dorm students. Every venture starts with a very narrow set of students because it allows you to focus on product and marketing. So just two pieces of advice from our side as after is, don't run after investors, let investors run after you, and it will happen over the due course of time if you have the right clarity. And two, just have focus on what you're working towards. Having that focus allows you to figure out what your product is going to be really and what your marketing strategy is going to be. So with that, I will just take a pause and I'll get the content and the technology team to just come and share their thoughts as to how they went about building the platform before we can move on to the group activity.
I'm Kecher, I'm heading the tech team at Upgrad. First of all, it's very good to know that almost all of you have got 10, and I'm sure if we have the laptop right now, you would have got 10 right now.
Just a show of hands, how many of you all are yet in a job and looking to become an entrepreneur? How many of you all are already an entrepreneur? And anything in between? Okay. Whatever that means, I may have to figure that out. Okay, so let's start. So your first part, I think first we need to discuss what mass is, right? I mean, mass is a nice word, but India is a country where every 100 miles your taste buds change. There are 9 different biryani tastes from Kashmir to Kanyakumari, if you just understand that thought process. And the way you take Fair and Lovely in the south is different from Fair and Lovely in Kashmir, and so many other things, right? So, yeah, please sit, by the way, just be comfortable. I think my question would be, everyone who's thinking of mass, they need to understand what is mass, because that just sounds like a nice word. Assuming that it is at a right price point that you believe is for a larger segment, because mass and price point, mass and what your product offering is going to be quite important. So I think you have to get into specifics, because if it's mass and a product is linked with technology, you have to get into 5 other facets of what's your link up for that. If it's mass in consumption, you can call it mass, but distribution, physical distribution is going to be very critical. What is your distribution setup is going to be able to determine that. So, not making it sound complicated, those are very important factors, because otherwise just mass makes no sense. And you need to define why. The third, I think, when people are starting up, and I think you're seeing a fair amount of that in the recent history, where everyone has decided that every product is theirs. If I can get a food technology company or a cab company or this company or that company, and if I go national faster the better, then I'm capturing everything else. And there's almost a little bit of a retreating of the forces because everyone's gone everywhere else. So I think if you think you have a mass product, then test it in a mass in a particular geography. It could be either a 3 metro city, or it could be just tier 2 cities, or it could be just the south of India, or it could be just the north of India. So I think there are many, many options as far as that is concerned. So mass is a very broad word. Now, as far as budgets go, I think it again comes back to the whole thought process, because you suddenly believe I can only do this if I can go that mass. Then you think you need the funding. So your funding expectation is high. That cripples you in your thinking process, because you feel I can't start this till I get funding. So you might be in a holding pattern for 6 months in your business, because you feel no, but at 50 lakhs I can't do it, but if I get 5 crores I'll be able to do it. Whereas actually you're better off proving what you can do with 50 lakhs many times than what you can do with 5 crores, unless you're, that just happens once in a way. And, one headline, for every one headline of it happening with somebody, there are at least 499 where it's not happening. So how are you going to be able to cut your coat as far as that is concerned? So I think the budget and the mass and the territory is actually quite linked. And personally, I think it's a good way to test market things. And I don't mean test market means you're a pilot. A test market means you take a city like Bombay, it's no longer a test market. What's your word of mouth? How much product feedback you're going to get? Because the other thing I think we all start mistaking about at early stages is just because it's a great idea, a great service, a great product, what is the feedback mechanism you've kept and the buffer you've kept yourself for consumer feedback? And don't forget the Cokes and the Pepsis on one side and the PNGs and the HLLs on one side have been doing this as a science for many, many years, and even they have a track record of 50% of their products flop. You just don't hear about them because they've got 3 or 30 brand leaders and therefore you don't hear about them. So I think that would be my broad take on mass. As far as hiring people versus co-founders, is that your question?
Yeah.
What's the specific question?
It was sort of approximately what everybody had said from the group exercise. Generally, hiring is a challenge, looking for the right partners.
Making people believe in your idea when it's nothing, it's zero right now. We are starting out the website, we're almost ready, and how to hire people, make them believe in your idea as much as you do.
But that is a phenomenal challenge, and
Yeah,
that's your true test.
That-
The more you can get people to believe in you, frankly, it's an endorsement of your product, your service, your business idea. If you're not being able to do that, you should be pausing and thinking, am I offering the right thing? So there are two aspects. One is you as an individual and your ability to inspire and your ability to communicate. Because I think if you haven't communicated in the best manner what you stand for, what you plan to do, or if you can't inspire that person to say, I'm going to learn something when I come and join your company. I'm coming in here because I'm excited because I learned something new. Those are the factors where at the startup level people get much more excited. I know everyone thinks ESOP is a good currency. I personally don't believe in it because I don't think 99% of the people understand what it means. Genuinely. So I think we keep self-believing that I'm keeping an ESOP pool. And everywhere I've talked to entrepreneurs, they all get excited about this 5% ESOP pool and 10% ESOP pool. But 99% of the people who you are going to hire don't understand that currency. And more so where in 2 years they move on and they can't do anything and there wasn't liquidity event, they'll say, I thought so. And everyone goes through 3 cycles of that 2 years and never got any value on that, they'll forget about that thought process. So it's really about you getting that clarity, and I think communication and inspiration are the two most important aspects. Now, I think for most people, communications, and everyone starts cramping up by thinking, oh, but I'm not such a good, like I'm sitting here and I'm openly communicating. I don't have that kind of gift in the gab, and I don't think you need that, because you could be a technology nerd, you could be anything you want to be. You figure out which way you want to communicate. You could be communicating by writing a phenomenal one-pager that you might want to put to somebody, or a 2-page slide that just explains everything so intricately and simply in a thought process. You could be just, if you're not a good communicator in a group, break it up and talk to 2 people at a time. And I think a lot of people feel communication means I have to call my whole staff, and if you can't, call 2 people at a time, call 3 people at a time and do communication. Co-founder is a very tricky one. I think co-founders is very good, but if you get it really wrong, then it brings the company and slows it down big time. Because at least on an employer-employee relationship, you can figure out what you want to do as far as your destiny is concerned. Co-founder means you've got to give it the bash for a long, long period of time. So I think either there are very complementary skills or people have known each other for a very long period of time. It's a combination of it. So that requires a lot of maturity and a lot of patience to do that. Does that answer your question?
Yeah.
Okay. I also believe that if you're getting into a high technology area and you as the key founder have no clue on it, that is, I would say, skating on thin ice over a period of time. Because you're not going to be able to challenge and be complementary with your co-founder or your key CTO at some stage. So if you've got absolutely zero knowledge, and I mean knowledge means even the interest and the savviness to do it, then I think it's a problem. So you'll have to get with it. you should, if you're getting somebody technical, I think you need to make the effort that if you're low on technology, you need to understand it a lot more. Because most people feel, I've got it and now this person will do it. The brain of a technology person is wired very differently, and rightly so, in different ways. I don't mean good or bad. And your brain could be from a business perspective, so it's wired differently. The communication in a room, you're going to be talking quite asymmetrically for a long period of time if you don't little bit understand of each other. So I think that's the first part, that you need to be comfortable about the topic in the first place. But otherwise, I think it comes back to you can hire somebody technology. The other problem I think is, at least in technology, you need to hire a little bit ahead. If you're hiring someone for that next 6 months or 1 year, that is a problem. Because I've at least found out that if you don't have someone who's going to think for the next 2 to 3 years, and then you're getting someone that's senior, and you might be hesitant at that particular point in time to hire somebody senior because you feel I can't afford it. The next person's going to come and reinvent the wheel. And for the company, it's a lot more expensive to keep reinventing the wheel every 6 months when it comes to things like technology. Because they say, yeah, but that was for this, but now I've come in here with a different point of view. So not easy answers. And therefore, a co-founder is going to stick it through and therefore understands that and comes in could be an important measure. But I would not underrate the importance of you knowing at least some part of technology in some form or the other as a consumer, as a consumption.
But initially, is it okay to outsource, or is it, should you directly start building your team?
No, I think it's fine to outsource. I mean, it's a personal viewpoint. See, it's a question of business compulsion. So this is a question each one has to ask themselves. If you can't afford it, you will outsource. But outsource has its, if you don't have an internal person who owns it, and if an outsourced person is owning it, then you have a bit of a problem there. So if you're the key person, but you don't want to get the right technology people and you understand technology, that might be safe. But if that's the way you need to start, I think you need to assess whether 6 months from now, 1 year from now, what will be the problems when I want to transition it internally. So when it comes to technology, I think you need to think ahead is what I'm saying, and most people think the today and the here and the now. Let me tell you, I think it'll be if it's not your permanent problem, you're not ambitious. So whatever this problem you're stating right now is a genuine problem, and it should remain your permanent problem, because that means you're upping your own expectations every single day, week, month, as the case may be. So firstly, it should not be hard. Now I found somebody, because that means you've actually flattened out, because this should be the case. Second, there'll always be a gap between the founder team and whatever else and some of the people. Third, I think as an entrepreneur, as a founder, you always think, I can do this better. So your gap in passion may be more based on identification with that team member who could be equally passionate about their thought process. So I don't have a clean-cut answer of how you would find a needle in a haystack, but I think that's why you're becoming an entrepreneur, right? Because if you don't find a needle in a haystack, then everyone's got a haystack, then you don't have much of a business. So I think that's pretty much it. But I would say that it's going to be a permanent problem, and it's a good permanent problem to have. Yeah, see, I think the questions that you're asking right now are absolutely real questions. I'm not sure they have absolute answers at any given stage, because firstly, that's what you're there for. You'll have to figure out those answers on an ongoing basis. I think sustainability, by just definition, if you simplify it, is, are you pacing your business at the which you got your resources and people and whatever else? So sustainability is like running a marathon versus running a race. You know the common sense of it. Actually, it's the common sense of it. At the end of the day, if it's not common sense and it's not elementary, then you'll be ahead of your time. So each sector and this thing will have a different answer. My sense is sustainability will be, if you have to bootstrap, are you continue to bootstrap? If you got resources, are you going to do? But most important is sustainability actually is the mindset. Above everything else, from people, team, spirit, whatever, it's actually in your mind. Because if you believe that you don't have a choice and you have to carry on and you will carry on, and come what may, you will find a solution. That's real sustainability as far as I'm concerned. Because when you run out of resources, then you feel it's an unsustainable business. But actually, you're there because you will run out of resources. The question is, what are you going to do at that particular point in time? Because the first 3 times you run out of absolute resources and you feel this is the end and you can get it going, those are your best foundations for your business for the long term. Best foundation for your team who'll stick with you because they'll know you are a solution-oriented, rigorous company that stays the course on everything you want to do. So I think sustainability, in my opinion, first is a real mindset thing. It's a constant mindset thing. And your second word was what?
How do you differentiate yourself from,
It's at the starting point, I think, right? I mean, how do you differentiate will mean why have you ever thought of a product or a service if you don't have a differentiator would be more the question. You need to get down to the basics of that thought process, which means that you need a lot more thinking on strategy before that. I was just talking to one of the gentlemen here who's starting, the animation studio, and we were just having a very brief conversation. And the fact of the matter is, it is an outsourcing business. It's a business where your churn will happen at 30% of people and they'll move away. It is a job work business in that sense. So what's your differentiator was the question. Now the question is, you need to figure out whether you want to go the intellectual property route, or do you want to go the scale route, or the ideation of what you're doing here, or you find those 3 business partners who believe whatever it is. You'll have to figure that out. Actually, that has to be at the starting point. And my input to him was, I think the 4 founders need to spend a disproportionate amount of time first brainstorming why are you in your business, and 2 years from now, what do you see your business being, and are you happy with that? Because if you think of this and if you're still questioning yourself as to what's my differentiator, then chances are you're not really spending enough time on why you're in that business. So it's not about how do you find it, it's an absolute necessity for you to find it. And whoever's your core team, discuss it out and figure it out. But there's no answer of how you would find it. I mean, no book or another individual or a mentor is ever going to give you that advice at all. You'll have to figure it out. And look, I mean, I think even if you're looking for overall mentorship, and even in this course, I think what we will share with you and what we're doing more is posing more questions that you may not have thought through, that need to be answered by yourselves in your own situations. And all we can do is say, well, this one, and this one did this. What would you? What are we actually doing by that? We are actually getting you to think that says, okay, now I've understood 30 scenarios or 20 scenarios with this one, what would I have done in a similar position? That's when you're fine-tuning your left brain to figure out and getting ready for being an entrepreneur, or getting ready for scale, or getting ready for hiring your next level of people, whatever. That's what it's about. Yeah, I would say in many of the businesses right now, I think the nitty-gritties are being really left behind. So I'm glad you brought up the legal case, and I would say for a lot of your guys, what one is seeing from the outside is a lot of nitty-gritties get ignored. You're never going to be able to raise serious money if your nitty-gritties are ignored. You feel at that early stage, I've got my finance outsourced, I've got my this outsourced, I've got my that outsourced. Unfortunately, whether you might be forced to do that, but if you're running, for example, a food business or many of these businesses, the regulatory framework is very important. So if you're not going to be also the business person in your mind, and if you don't want to go through that process, it's going to be tough. It's like the technology part. At that level of which you're running a business, you have to be a multitasker. So you get the prototype once. If there are 30 regulations, at least you should know what those 30 regulations are. Then you'll get one individual in your company that can take care of those. But I think the important part is understanding it. I think most of us feel if I don't understand technology, then you distance yourself. And I think in entrepreneurship, multitasking and getting into the nitty-gritty is very, very important. We skip a lot of that. And unfortunately, the investor community skips it even more. So then they don't ask you those piercing questions, and then you feel, let me grow my business, everything else will follow. I think it's a big mistake because everything does not follow. And if you don't get those systems, I think the withdrawal symptoms of what you're seeing today in the ecosystem are already starting to happen, where people have not raised the right bedrock of things. So one, understand it yourself. You don't need to execute it, but you need to understand it. And I think that we can't be lazy about, because if you can't understand it, your consultants, you'll never be able to question, you won't be able to question anyone from outside. And this is nothing to do with just legal, I think it's to do with a lot of nitty-gritties in whichever way one wants to do that. I think we come up with ideas, but half our people, I've seen very little respect for filing your own patents or filing intellectual property. I don't know what you all are building if you don't want to go out there and register patents. It's a very important aspect of what you want to do. And if you don't have it, to me, it's a mindset problem again. That means you're thinking of your business in a very transient manner. In fact, the first thing anyone would think in a discipline is, how am I going to get myself registered? So if you take that as your discipline, you can do that. So I think it's a lot of discipline, multitasking, and every single aspect of the business you need to understand in the beginning. 50% of that you'll be most uncomfortable with, but you have to get involved in the beginning, because once you do, it can work better. But if you ignore it, you'll never be able to leap into it afterwards. I don't think it's that expensive. It really depends on who you go to and how you do that. So I think it's not as costly as we think it is. I think it's costly in our mind because it's not a priority. I really believe that half the problem of price threshold is, I'll spend 10 lakhs or 10 crores, depending on the scale of your business, on technology, I'll do that. If you don't understand the importance of some of these, then you just feel it's outpriced and not a priority in your mind. But if you understand that priority, number one, I think there are very, very affordable services today. I think there are many, many online services that will give you a basic stuff. And I don't mean you have to go on Google and figure it out yourself. Okay, but there are enough services. I think your finance firms actually can double up and look at legal and commercial in that part. So I don't think we should take a shortcut on that. I don't think it's unaffordable. I really don't think it's unaffordable. And you don't have a choice in the matter, I'm saying it, because you won't build a proper business. Without details, I'm not saying only legal and finance. There's a lot of detailing that gets missed, because we grow up to become an entrepreneur because either we're the idea guy, or we're the marketing guy, or we're the sales guy, or with the technology guy, or with the business guy, or with the deal-making guy. And if you take all of these, when you're starting up, you need to be all of them. You have to be all of them. You have to be involved with all of them. And if you don't, and your team members, you'll have to spend disproportionate time to understand what they're doing, what are they bringing to the table, and how do I bring that up. Otherwise, cut to 1 year later, what are the questions you're going to ask to your own team members where they will feel they're learning from you and you're questioning them? I think funding is perfectly fine, but it can't be the obsession it is today with everyone. Firstly, for a lot of people, it's the benchmark. It's almost like I won't start till I get funding. I don't think you should start then, genuinely. I hate to say it, but because then you're not ready. What kind of a precondition is that? And after you get that first funding, and if you don't get the second funding, you'll just stop and go home. Just think about it, and just think about it in a very practical manner. That doesn't mean there's anything wrong with getting funding, and you should persevere for that. So I think funding is absolutely correct, but if it's a precondition to starting, I think it's a problem. And I think if funding is your design of creating your business is what you think the investor will want to do, that's flawed. Those are, to me, the most flawed situations on funding. Otherwise, I think it's perfectly fine. Every business would need funding. I mean, the family-run businesses got loans. Today, nobody thinks about debt. Everyone thinks about equity. At that time, they used to prepare it for getting, their funding was debt. Today, the new currency is equity. Tomorrow, the new currency might be barter. And, the fourth one could be, But again, these are all very, very personal. We can have as much discussions. And I'm saying what you'll find as you go through your journeys is going to be understanding what everybody else is thinking and taking away examples of other people, but relating it to yourself. If anyone is taking inputs and advice that, okay, this one said that, I made a note about it, and now this is the gospel, it will never be. Everything that you're going to receive and learn over the next multiple years in your businesses, you have to draw it in your example, your temperament, your business, how you want to approach it in a particular manner, etc., etc. We found there were 32 airlines coming into the country, and none of them are carrying Indian programming. Now, of course, everybody does. And I was very keen that we got on to whatever else. And I was just crazy that Singapore Airlines should carry it because they were having the maximum amount of flights here, and Air India was a government organization, we didn't want to deal with it. And for 1 year we tried with them, and we went through the same process. They were just not accessible. They said, no, Indian content, no, whatever. Finally, I figured out the head of their in-flight head. He was taking a flight from Singapore to Atlanta to meet the CNN people, where coincidentally I was invited to. I found out his flight number, I found out his seat number, and I found a seat next to him. Flew to Atlanta for that meeting, and we started our airline in-flight division. So all I'm saying is, you'll have to find your own solutions. You will have to find your own solutions, and that's what those early days will, that whole, your mind will open up into the confidence that you get when you find a solution like that will give you tailwind for the next 2 years for finding 40 other solutions. So getting coupons redeemed on Flipkart, I don't think you all should be feeling that intimidated about.
Hi, my name is Divya. I will be the first generation entrepreneur in my family. I came across Upgrad, pretty much online on Facebook while I was looking for options, and I think it came at the right time in my life. My expectations from this course are very high, and today is the first time I've come for a physical meet. We got to meet a lot of us who are students on this course from Bombay. We had one group discussion today where I met 4 like-minded people who are looking to do something in the same industry like I am. So I'm very excited. I think it's going to be a great opportunity, and I'm really looking forward to the entire course. So far the experience is 5-star. Thank you so much.
I think Upgrad is, just what the entrepreneurs or the people who want to be entrepreneurs needed today. It's one of those bridges that is connecting the ideas with execution. It's one of those bridges that is connecting a lot of passion with what needs to be done on the ground. It's a great initiative, and I think the way the platform has been designed, it's very simple, easy to use. I think the best part about the platform is the library. That's what I like the most, because you get to hear about stories of people that have that have really been there, done that, and you can learn from their experiences. So I think a lot of effort has gone into building the content of the program. And today I was here for a networking event, and I really enjoyed myself. I think there are some very passionate individuals that have signed up for Upgrad. And it's going to be one of those platforms that will get them to think about their ideas, build them, and lead to successful businesses. So I think Upgrad is a fantastic initiative. Well done, guys.
I'm very excited to join this course with Upgrad, this startup course. Actually, I'm very sure that with this course I'll be able to start my entrepreneurship journey on a very positive note. I found the platform also, the learning platform that Upgrad has used for this course, also very intuitive and easy to use. And there is a lot of interaction going on amongst the student community right from day one. And I believe that will give a lot of beneficial insights to us people who are about to start on an uncertain journey. And I thank all the Upgrad members for their support and the kind of quality service that they are providing to the students. I wish all the best to all fellow Upgrad students on this occasion. Thank you.
Hi guys, my name is Avni Chitroda. I work as an assistant vice president at Deutsche Bank. And it was a wonderful day here. Now I'm venturing into the world of entrepreneurship, and Upgrad gave me the platform to network with people, look at their learning systems and interactive sessions. Mayank's speech was great. I got to meet the opportunity to speak to Ronnie. He gave his insights on entrepreneurship, and I got like-minded people whom I was able to discuss their work, their challenges, and I think it's a wonderful course, and I really love that platform because it's upcoming. It has all the modules, it has all the interactions, the people, the normal CEOs, etc. They shared their experiences. I think it's going to be great fun. Thank you.
One of the main reasons I'm here to be there to be part of this kind of a course and an event, there are 2 ways to break it down for me. One is obviously as an entrepreneur and somebody working to build something in today's startup ecosystem, I want to be able to continuously fine-tune my skills and my abilities to be able to deliver the best product that I possibly could to somebody who wants to use it. The only way I can do that is to learn more every single day. Even the most successful entrepreneurs will say the same thing, that the day you stop learning is the day you go in the opposite direction. The day you feel you know everything, you're going to move in the opposite direction. Always keep your eyes open, always try and learn and imbibe new things that you see around you. And secondly, the most important aspect of what this course does for us is the ability to network with people within this very ecosystem. Because today we have people ranging from people with ideas that still need validation to people with tangible products that have already hit the market. So it's a very diverse mix of people and entrepreneurs at different levels and stages of their journey who are able to connect, discuss, and learn from each other to create sustainable businesses.
Hi, I'm Harsha. I have my startup called Science Utsav. The reason why I wanted to be a part of Upgrad was I knew that this would be a platform where I can discuss my queries and get them answered. So what I like best here is the platform. The idea that they have is to make it simple, and it's very simple. Somebody who's tech savvy, non-tech savvy can access it, can benefit from it pretty easily. The videos that play are they have a tag. If you want to go to if you want to access a particular part of the video, you can access that directly. You know that you've not missed out any part of any video or any part of your curriculum because you have a next button on the dashboard. The dashboard is very easy. The best part in this again is the discussion board. In the discussion board, you get to know which are the questions that people have liked, so you can access them more. You can answer them and you can get answers from them. That's about the dashboard and how simple it is. Now, the whole benefit from being a part of Upgrad is, now I have 3 issues that I'm trying to solve on my own. Probably me and my co-founder are discussing this out day and night and coming to a conclusion. And that similar problem, somebody else is doing it somewhere else. And there are 100 people doing this in silos. Here, my problem is being the problem that I have solved. I can give answers to another 100 people, and similarly somebody else has some queries which I can answer. So it's like a group discussion where hundreds of us are coming together and solving each other's problems. And how Upgrad is made it easy is, they say that this is an endorsed answer, or they say that this discussion is going in the right direction and this question has been upvoted. So it's easy for me to know what is the right direction to think in. Thank you.